next to Mr. Stivers. You have up to 5 minutes.
Chair and honorable members of the committee, bonjour and merci for the opportunity to testify today on this important topic. My name is Jonathan Stivers. I'm the U.S. and Canada Director at the Committee for Freedom in Hong Kong, CFHK Foundation. My organization is dedicated to defending freedom and human rights in Hong Kong, and we work to strengthen the international response to intensifying repression there. My background is in U.S.-China policy. I've served at high levels in the U.S. Congress and the administration, including as the Democratic Staff Director at the Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party, and before that as a Senate-confirmed appointee for President Obama, and 15 years as a senior advisor for Speaker Nancy Pelosi working on China issues. In the U.S., the cause of freedom in Hong Kong and Jimmy Lai is bipartisan. And it's been strongly bipartisan over the years, and it's gratifying to see Canada is displaying the same example on such an important topic. In the 5 years since the imposition of the draconian national security law, Hong Kong has experienced a dramatic transformation from one of Asia's most open societies to a city where free expression is criminalized, civil society has been dismantled, and pro-democracy leaders, journalists, students face harassment and persecution. Since 2019, nearly 2,000 political prisoners have been detained, and many of whom remain imprisoned under conditions that violate international human rights standards. The prosecution of pro-democracy figures, including Jimmy Lai and Joshua Wong, illustrate the systematic weaponization of the judicial system as a tool for political control. So instead of restoring freedom and releasing political prisoners, Hong Kong officials are conducting a global messaging campaign to mask the deepening repression that has driven businesses and professionals and capital away from Hong Kong to other destinations. But simply put, if you have political prisoners, you cannot also be a trusted global financial center. And while the topic of this hearing is the case of Jimmy Lai, the issue of which he is a victim is China's control and the systematic repression of the Hong Kong people, and that has serious implications for the international community, and in particular the Canadian government. There is growing awareness and concern that Hong Kong has now emerged as the global hub for sanctions evasion and export control violations, supporting Russia, supporting Iran, and supporting North Korea. Last week, the CFHK Foundation, along with the Wallenberg Center, published this groundbreaking new report entitled Backdoor to the Battlefield: How Hong Kong Funnels Canadian Technology and into Russia's War Machine. Authored by my colleague Samuel Bickett, the report details how Canada's world-class electronics and aerospace sectors are being exploited to support Russia's war machine through a sprawling network of Hong Kong-based shell companies. The report draws upon battlefield forensics, Hong Kong public records, and Russian customs data to show where Canadian parts surface, who moves them, and why Canada's sanctions and enforcement architecture has failed to keep up. We provide evidence in this report that Canadian technology has repeatedly surfaced in Russian weapons recovered on the Ukrainian battlefield, with supply chains running through Hong Kong. In response to our report, Foreign Minister Anita Anand said that the government is examining these findings. She warned Canadian companies that those evading federal sanctions would be punished. We appreciate that response, and there's no doubt that Canadian companies need to better track their shipments, but I want to underscore that stronger enforcement actions from the government are essential. We know that neither Americans nor Canadians want to unknowingly be complicit with Russia's war in Ukraine, and we offer the following policy recommendations. First, partner with the U.S. and the U.K. to exert calibrated and sustained diplomatic pressure to secure the release of Jimmy Lai and other Hong Kong political prisoners. Coordinated action among allies multiplies diplomatic weight and mitigates retaliation, while also reducing the risk that measures will be dismissed or sidelined by the Chinese government. Second, impose targeted Magnitsky sanctions on officials involved in human rights abuses in Hong Kong. To date, the U.S. has imposed targeted sanctions on 48 Chinese and Hong Kong officials. It is long past time for the Canadian government to exercise its own unique moral authority and hold Hong Kong officials accountable. Third, close the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office to HKETO in Toronto. The one country, two systems framework has ended. The Hong Kong government no longer deserves its own de facto embassy in Canada. The HKETOs are working hard to promote Beijing's narratives and propaganda, counter-lobby against human rights legislation, and court government officials as well as business leaders and others. In addition, the Hong Kong government has taken the brazen and unprecedented step of issuing cash bounties on activists in Canada, Foreign governments, much less city governments, should not be allowed to take such actions in the US or Canada without consequences, or at minimum losing their privileges. And last, designate Hong Kong as a high-risk jurisdiction for money laundering, impose secondary sanctions on Hong Kong companies and individuals who are providing support for Russia's war in Ukraine. Canada has long stood as a principal defender of human rights and democracy and has shown extraordinary solidarity with Hong Kongers seeking safety and freedom, and that legacy should continue, and it's something that I think Canada should be very proud of, and the United States, frankly, has to do better on. But through these recommendations, Canada can send a clear message that repression will not be met with silence. Thank you for your attention and your commitment to human rights. I look forward to your questions and further discussion.
Thank you very much.